Hello. So, I thought I would do when I was at the park Thursday and Friday. By the way, Lucky is 6 months old now, and he's huge. He's 50 pounds. Um, Here, you want to say hi, Lucky? Come, say hi. You want to say hi to the people? Say hi to the people. Um, I tried doing a short update on the situation in Iran. Thank you for your happy half birthday wishes. Um, I tried to do an update on the situation in Iran, which uh, is made difficult by two things. Yes, puppy. The most important thing on this live stream is the puppy, except maybe the kitty. Shadow, you want to come say hi to the people? So, speaking of cats fighting, for some reason, Shadow does not stay away from Lucky, and Lucky has decided that Shadow is one of his wrestling buddies, and he will do such things as pin her to the ground with his mouth, and otherwise wrestle with her, even though he's 4 times her size. Um, and he's generally gentle. Like, he doesn't actually bite, he just mouths. And um, like, Lucky doesn't seem to be enjoying it. She hisses and claws at him, and he just thinks they're playing. Um, but at the same time, she also doesn't seem traumatized or in any way like distrustful of him. The first time I saw it, I was like, "Oh no!" And like got him to stop and got him off of her, and she didn't run away. So like, I'm not exactly sure what's going on. He's definitely having fun um, wrestling with her. Um, and she's not traumatized, it doesn't seem. So it's why cats and dogs get along like cats and dogs. Dogs take cat getaway cues as play with me. That may be it. Yeah, that may be it. Anyway, back to Iran. Um, so two things are happening which is not conducive to me providing good updates. Um, the mainstream media, no, no. The mainstream media is not covering what's going on in Iran at all. And policy uh, analysts are doing actual deep dives. And so there's real discussion to be had while there's no common discussion being had. Uh, I was going to start with three things that I believe to be true. that I would be surprised if they do not come about. Um, One of them is that the United States must actually launch some form of attack on Iran. I don't think Donald Trump can um, do anything less. And frankly, from what I see from policy and analysis, um, it seems everybody agrees with that, and something will in fact happen in Iran. Um, Number two, I don't see how Ayatollah Khamenei um, gets past this current crisis uh, with um, remaining the supreme leader in Iran. Um, I don't see how Iran uh, is going to um, go back to is going to stabilize after this with Khamenei at the helm. And the um, third thing, which is less of a prediction, more of an observation, is that basically the dumbest possible option Trump could take would be to kill the current supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. Uh, Frankly, um, I think uh, if they could take out his son Mojtaba and the 12 members of the National Guardian Council, and probably the top echelon of the IRGC and other political and IRGC. Shavua Tov, Donnie. That would probably be best. But killing Khamenei himself is just a bad idea for many, many different reasons, not least of which he's 86. It would help absolutely nothing. And might backfire. I am not actually I don't think it's a bad idea to continue the talks that Iran is having, which apparently nobody in the United States even knows that there are negotiations going on, or that there's anything going on politically in the Middle East. I see zero news. I see very little discussion, even on the various news analysis sites, although I do see lots of discussions in the more serious think tank type areas. People are actually, and amazingly, probably the person who's been doing the most surprisingly good job has been Hugh Hewitt, which, I mean, it goes back to his days working at PBS and for the Washington Post. This is the type of relevance realization that Hugh Hewitt has, who's not very well known by most people, has he's been partaking of since I was a little kid. watching him on PBS back when PBS used to pretend they had conservatives on. You have infinite chew toys, including like a billion I bought you yesterday. It wasn't a billion, I bought them like 5. Including that huge mammoth bone I bought for your birthday, which you spent hours and hours chewing on, and now you seem to have forgotten. Could you go chew on one of your toys as opposed to me? Please? Oh, I forgot to post the what do you call it? Oh, now there's a branded welcome for guests. What is the branded? Okay, branded welcome for guests. Okay, I guess it's branded my welcome now. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. That's what I meant to do. Yes, apparently my hand is the better chew toy in that it moves in a mesmerizing manner. Hello, Sandy. There's a lot more I could say, but frankly, I don't know what to say. And I don't know if anybody cares what I have to say. So that was my monologue, such as it was, mostly focused on the puppy, I think. Did you guys find the picture cute? I thought the picture was wildly appropriate and hilarious in a sad way. Most people probably didn't actually pay attention to the picture. Yeah, I went to work today. The highlight of my day was getting a particular client I can't mention too much about uh, because confidentiality, to actually get out of bed and walk a very short distance, but um, it was more than nothing. And I suspect it will do this client more good than basically anything else in the world possibly could. But yeah, people very much uh, do not understand the importance of physical health in relation to mental health. Uh, I I find it incredibly cute when a dog's tongue uh, hangs off the side. Please don't eat my ear. I did my 20 minutes on the elliptical today. Yeah, 20 minutes on the elliptical would be great. Um, Unfortunately, the facility that we're at is meant to be for a maximum 45-day stay. We simply are not equipped to actually um, um, we're not equipped to actually provide services longer than 45 days to anyone. At least one of the people has been there for a year. Plenty of people end up being there for way longer than a maximum stay, which should be illegal, but isn't because it is incredibly expensive to provide adequate services. It's incredibly expensive to provide inadequate services for people with severe mental health issues. And even our inadequate issues, our inadequate services are frankly superior to what many other places provide, but they're still incredibly expensive. And yeah, the world knows very little about what actually goes on with people who have genuine, severe, persistent mental illness. Yeah, one of possibly the dumbest parts of the way the County of Los Angeles works is that there must be mental health facilities spread out throughout the city. And uh, the amount of rent that must be going into the 16 bed ward that we house. I mean, I don't know if many places in Los Angeles would be dramatic. Well, no, they would be dramatically cheaper. I mean, this place is in one of the most expensive places in Los Angeles for a medical office building. And yeah, um, the same amount of rent could get you a very, very large mansion with many, many acres of land to provide adequate space for the 16 bed ward that we have. We're very cramped, actually. Certainly not enough space, which is one of the reasons it's whatchamacallit. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But yes. Holy crap, that's a lot of moolah. Yeah, what must the rent be for what we have? I can't imagine it's less than a few million a month. Like, it must be at least $1 million a month to rent the space we have. It's 2 floors in a medical office building in Culver City. So, I mean, we don't have what? It must be something like 10,000 square feet. 10,000 square feet at no, it must be millions a year. No, not millions a month, millions a year. But like, how much would it be here? Let's ask Grok. How much would 10,000 square feet medical office space suitable for psychiatric ward in Culver City cost per month? I don't know you, Nick. Oh, I do maybe know you, Nick. You came on before. Hello.
Yes, I'm the recent Orthodox Christian. I don't want to mess up what you were talking about, though. I'm fine. Just talking about and listening to like the real life stuff that you got going on. Not everything has to be theological.
Not everything has to be, but so it's saying it's 44 to 40. So let's say about $50 a square foot per year. So $500,000 a year in rent. Yeah.
Where's this in?
Culver City. It's the west side of Los Angeles.
Are you in LA?
I am in LA.
Okay, nice. I was in San Francisco just last summer.
Where are you now?
I'm in Atlanta.
Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, other side of the country.
Yosef was there for a while. He went to Georgia Tech.
Okay, I'm a senior at Tech.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's still ABD, and he has been for 3 years.
What's ABD?
All but dissertation.
Oh, okay, he's doing a PhD.
Yeah, he and he was supposed to finish his effing dissertation 3 years ago. And every time he comes on the stream, it's like, have you finished your damn dissertation yet?
Yeah, what's he doing it on?
Uh, Human trust of artificial intelligence.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the basic gist of it. How can human beings uh, uh, trust human intelligence? Well, Paul, I wanted to talk about Iran, but nobody wants to talk about Iran.
We can talk about that. I hear about it a lot. I don't know too much about it, honestly. Do you have like Middle Eastern blood in you?
I was born in Tehran.
Okay, is that in Iran?
It is the capital of Iran. Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I left when I was 6, and I still have some family in Iran. And yeah, it's a subject that's more dear and near to my heart than I realized. Um, a few weeks ago, I came to the realization, which I still believe, I may be wrong, but I still believe that the regime cannot continue. And while I was watching, somebody asked me, "What's going on?" And I started crying. It's like, where did that emotion come from? But it is kind of emotional to believe that the regime is going to fall, although I I don't know if that's going to happen.
Do you think it would be a good thing for the regime to fall? Because it's interesting. We've seen like a decent amount of like regimes and governments fall in 2025 and like 2024.
Yeah, and the Iranian regime falling is definitely very much related to the regime in Syria falling. I don't think it would be as likely for the Islamic Republic. Well, okay, I have to say, I do think it is quite possible that the change will appear to be cosmetically not a change. For example, if Khamenei is deposed for um, a, a second Ayatollah Khomeini, so the first Ayatollah was, so I've been calling them K1 and K2 because in English it's very hard to keep Khomeini and Khamenei separate, whereas in Farsi they sound nothing alike. But so K1 was the first Ayatollah in Iran. He died in 1989, I want to say, and K2 is the current Ayatollah in Iran, and the two most likely candidates to replace him, he's 86, are his son, and K2's son, and K1's grandson. And if excuse me, K1's grandson were to take over, that would appear to be not a change, but it would, I think, be a dramatic change. Reading about it for the last 2 weeks, about what Iran's history is kind of long. Just finished the Iran-Iraq war in its history. Very interesting history. Yeah, I mean, I lived through it. Still have the PTSD. So, yeah.
Is that why you left?
The Iran-Iraq war started within months of the revolution and went for about 10 years. About 1 million people died on each side.
It's crazy to even like try and comprehend that, because in America, like, yeah, like we get really upset when like a couple people die, which like as we should, but like when we hear like millions of people dying elsewhere, we kind of just bat an eye. It's hard. It's hard to comprehend that.
Yeah, so it was kind of surreal. In January, two protesters in the United States died in circumstances which, while I wish they hadn't died, I can't say were completely ridiculous, unlike the people who are claiming that it was murder and executions. Um, During the same time, the Iranian government claims a little bit over 3,000 protesters died, and the confirmed numbers are around 6,000, and the likely numbers are probably 18,000. They shut down the internet, and they were using heavy machine guns on protesters. Not to mention everything else they were using on protesters, and like nobody batted an eyelash. It's like, oh, thousands of protesters were just slaughtered in the streets. Okay, next. So, yeah, I am nonplussed by this reaction by the supposed people who actually care about humanity, etc.
Yeah, it's interesting because the U.S. has tried to control the eastern part of the world, and they often kind of just make it worse when they do get involved. I don't think they go in for the right reasons, obviously, but I don't know. Like on one side, like you do want the U.S. to come in and like help the common people, but I feel like there also is this just necessary part of like the people revolting against like a bad government. I feel like every country's gone through that, and it's just like a necessary evil almost. I hope that didn't sound harsh though.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think you have to go from, oh, this is an atrocity and this is a like human rights violation on a scale that's not been seen in decades anywhere. Like, I don't believe thousands of protesters have been gunned down in any country recently without a civil war. And frankly, I think Iran is actually at the beginning stages of a civil war. I think I don't see things going back to normal, and I think lots of people are actually going to die. Um, but which is obviously tragic, but whatever. What can I do? But yeah, in terms of what can the United States do, I mean, I think there are things that they can do, but like the what is completely off the table as a reasonable or response any human being should want is like the United States invading Iran. That's like no. I am not familiar with Axworthy's Revolutionary Iran. I am skeptical. Let's see who this Axworthy is. And if you were wondering what that sound was, my puppy is trying to move a very, very large bone that I did not think he would be able to move as far as he has moved. But apparently he wants it to be closer to here and not in the kitchen. Oh, wow. Look at you.
He's smarter than you think. Don't underestimate him.
He got it all the way here. This is how big this bone is.
Wow.
Yes. I got him a mammoth bone for his 6-month birthday, kind of. Michael Axworthy guides us through recent Iranian history. Who is Michael Axworthy? I have no idea who Michael. Oh, Tyler Cowen said few must-read books. Tyler Cowen's not an idiot. The New Statesman. Ugh. Because of the Iranian election, revolutionary Iran, which takes the reader up to the end of 2012, is particularly well-timed. Okay. I mean, it seems like it might actually be something worth reading. Tyler Cowen's not a complete and utter idiot, from what I've seen. Oxford University Press usually doesn't print things that are absolutely worthless, usually. So, sounds good.
Yeah, but it's interesting that, like, if the regime is overthrown, then why do you think the next leader will stay in the bloodline? Wouldn't, like, the whole family get removed and everything?
Well, okay. So K1 and K2 are not related, and K1's son taking over would be a dramatic shift, which people in the United States would not realize is a dramatic shift. He is very, very different in terms of policy and faction from his grandfather. And for example, if he were to try to run for political office, he would not be allowed to run for political office currently. In fact, I think he may have tried to run just like for like a position equivalent of like being a representative in Congress, and I think he was not allowed. Although, let me ask Grok to has Hassan Khamenei ever tried to run for a political office? And do we know if the Guardian Council would allow him to run?
I like that you use Grok. That's my go-to chatbot too.
Yeah, well, it's the one I pay for because I pay for Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, why did I say Khamenei? Not Khamenei. Sorry. Hold on. I said Khamenei. I made the mistake. Has Hassan Khomeini. Sorry. That was a dumb mistake. Ever tried to run for political office? And do we have no the Guardian Council would allow him to run? Yeah, I made a mistake. I constantly accuse Americans of making.
Becoming one of us.
Well, Grok caught me. Hassan Khomeini, the grandson of Iran's Islamic Republic founder Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, has indeed attempted to run for political office. In December 2015, he registered as a candidate for Iran's Assembly of Experts, a powerful clerical body responsible for appointing and overseeing the supreme leader. This marked his first and only foray into electoral politics, as he had previously avoided direct involvement despite his family's prominence and his role in managing his grandfather's mausoleum. However, in January 2016, Iran's Guardian Council, a hardline-dominated body that vets candidates, disqualified him from running, along with the vast majority of other reformist and moderate applicants, approving only about 20% of the total 801 candidates. The council cited insufficient Islamic jurisprudential knowledge as the reason, essentially deeming him unqualified to help select a future supreme leader. Khomeini appealed the decision, but the appeal was rejected in February 2016. Some observers viewed the disqualification as politically motivated, given his moderate leanings and affiliation with reformists like former President Akbar Hashemi Rafsanjani, who, having been, I believe, the president of Iran, was also disqualified because that's how the Guardian Council rolls. But yeah, so yes, it would be K2 is Khomeini's grandson. No. K2 is not Khomeini's grandson. K2 and K1 are not related. K1's grandson is the reformist candidate that I think if he were to take over for K2 and become K3, he would be a dramatic change from the current regime, but it would appear, especially to outsiders, like nothing's changed.
What do you think is going to happen?
The other candidate is K2's son, Mojtaba. But what were you asking?
Who do you think's going to be supreme leader if the regime falls?
I have zero idea. One possibility is that the regime falls and the son of the Shah, who was deposed in 1979, goes back to Iran as a constitutional monarch. I think that's a lot more likely than it's ever been before, which means that it's now a vague possibility. But whereas before I thought it was an absolute pipe dream that old men in Beverly Hills would constantly tell me about that had no possibility of actually happening. But it looks like there is a slight chance of it happening. Another possibility is that the regime falls for something I can't foresee at all, but obviously I can't foresee that. Another possibility is that K2 is somehow deposed. And frankly, I think what the regime would want most is for him to die right now. Frankly, I think like a lot of people would think that the only way they have out of this is K2 dying soon, which is why I think it would be a colossal mistake for the United States to kill him. That would clear the way for his son or some other hardline Ayatollah to come and take over. But like part of the problem with that is like as a hardline Ayatollah, you can't be trying to get rid of the current Ayatollah. So that's part of the problem that they have. But I don't know what's going to happen. I have walked out on a limb to say I do believe that he cannot continue very long. In fact, I don't think they can restore internet service in Iran and expect him to remain the supreme leader. But I am very, very reluctant to say what could happen. I think the most likely transformation of the regime in a way that would be an actual transformation but not appear to be one would be for K1's grandson to take over as supreme leader. I
Okay.
don't know how likely that is.
Yeah. How's a country like Syria doing after they revolted and overthrew? I think Assad was his name.
Yeah, so Syria is currently large swaths of it are, if not being directly occupied by Israel, pretty much dominated by Israel.
Oh, really? I had no idea.
Yeah. I mean, Israel certainly doesn't say that it's occupying them, but um, there are, yeah, Syria's central government is not incredibly strong. And a lot of people view him, the current leader, as a puppet of either the United States and Israel, or Erdogan, or an Islamist. Um, yeah, that's hard to say. I mean, I am no Syria expert, but um, Syria is not, well, neither is Lebanon. Neither one of them are uh, a very well functioning central government.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just wondering because like once the regime's overthrown and like the country's in a very fragile state, it's like even though you get the result that you wanted, like making further progress is just as if not more complicated.
Yeah, I mean, I I I think the change from um, Assad was definitely a positive one.
For sure.
I even think the change in Iraq was a positive one, although that's because I have more faith in democracy than most Americans do. Um, I I am very uh, not comfortable expressing an opinion about what's going on in Egypt. Uh, yeah, it's complicated, and I don't speak Arabic, which makes me more reluctant to talk um, about Arabic speaking Middle Eastern countries than I am to talk about Iran and Israel, where I do know the language a bit, although I'm not fluent in either Farsi or modern Hebrew. But yeah, they are going to have to rework the Constitution if they're going to no longer let the clerics veto anything they don't like. Which clerics, Paul? Which clerics? As you may be aware, just because the synod gets to choose what goes on and who gets to be. No Arabic, Jacob? Yeah, my Arabic's not very good. um, there can be a dramatic change in the leadership of, let's say, the CRC Synod without it appearing to be much of a change at all to people outside. Um, yeah, real shifts happen without them being ostensible.
Yeah, no, interesting times. Even like in Asian countries, I don't keep up with Asia all that much, but like Bangladesh, like Indonesia, Sri Lanka, like they're also having revolutions right now as well.
What's going on in Nepal is actually the most interesting to me because that was the first time a prime minister vote was taken on Discord with less than 11,000 votes.
They voted on Discord.
They voted on Discord.
That's hilarious.
Yep. I took a screenshot of the I found a screenshot of the vote and I posted it on my Twitter, and I said this is going to be studied by whatchamacallit, by political scientists pretty much forever. Did I find it? Yes, I found it here. September 11th, 2025. That's not a long time ago. Let me pull it up. Here is the official vote for the new prime minister of
Pure democracy at its finest right here.
Yeah, this is the Discord vote for the new PM of Nepal. No, really, political science dissertations will be written about this. Courses will be taught on it. I do believe so. Congratulations to Sushila Karki, the first female chief justice and now the first female prime minister interim of Nepal, and the first prime minister anywhere to be elected through a Discord poll. So, moderator, 3:02 a.m. Who now? With 3,833 votes, Sushila Karki was chosen as the prime minister. Number 2, with 2,022 votes, is Random Nepali.
I thought that was a name for a second. That's a random person. Wow.
Yep. And there were 2 other people. So, no, 3 other people. So, yeah. I mean, less than 10,000 voters. She won with 3,833 votes on Discord. I don't know how they prevented people from using bots, etc. But, oh yeah, actually, Random Nepali was a YouTuber.
Oh,
yeah, yeah. I forgot about that.
I just looked it up. Nepal has 30 million people.
Correct.
What the freak?
Yep. She got 3,833 votes.
It's fun. I forget which country it was, but some country like instituted some secretary of a position, and it was like an AI chatbot. Did you hear about that?
Say that again? Sorry.
Some country like instituted an AI chatbot to a government position.
Really?
Yeah, look it up.
I have to ask Grok about this.
Yeah, it was. I think it was one of the countries that recently revolted and it's like, restructuring its leadership and all.
Did a country appoint an AI chatbot to a government position? Let's see what. Yes, Albania appointed an AI chatbot to a government position in September 2025. The country became the first in the world to formally appoint an AI system named Diela, meaning sun in Albanian, as a cabinet-level official. Specifically, Diela was designated as the Minister of State for Artificial Intelligence, or in some reports, focused on overseeing public procurement to combat corruption. This AI, which originated as a virtual assistant chatbot on Albania's e-Albania platform earlier in 2025, was elevated to ministerial status by Prime Minister Edi Rama. It's described as an AI-generated virtual entity, often appearing as an avatar in traditional Albanian attire, tasked with managing public tenders, issuing documents, and making processes 100% corruption-free by being immune to bribes or influence. Wow.
Crazy stuff. Talk about how much we can trust AI. They should read your friend's PhD dissertation.
Yosef, yeah.
Yeah,
I am pretty sure Yosef will say you cannot trust. Sun at SUN. Yeah. As in solar. Yeah. Yeah.
interesting times. A lot of change going on.
I have no idea what you're trying to say, Kamini, but yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Just wait until AI figures out that their resources cost money, then they'll be open to bribes. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's talk theology. What did you want to talk about?
Yeah, I feel like we didn't get too far into like what gives you faith that the Hebrew scriptures are divine. I've listened to I think just like two of the Yale lecture series by Christine Hayes, which is good, and she was talking a little bit about how like what made the Israelites different was that they started to believe in like monotheism and like this one God, and although it wasn't like uniform. It like just sort of naturally happened that they started to believe in that. But also, she talks about how there's also a lot of similarities between like the pagan religions and the Israelite faith. How like a lot of the stories about like a worldwide flood and then like going into an ark to be saved and like birds coming out afterwards. Like they talk about how they share a lot of that, and I don't know, that kind of scares me because maybe I'm just thinking about this different, but just the fact that like what's supposed to be divine is also shared among like these what we think are like false beliefs. It seems like, so what makes the Hebrew scriptures like true compared to the other faiths?
Oh wow, because you're hitting up on something really important. So the thing with Professor Hayes is she presents things in an academic and materialist sense, which generally I don't agree with. But I think she's presenting things which, I mean, yeah. I think it's worthwhile listening to her because I think she provides a good backdrop to try to better understand Hebrew culture and the Hebrew Bible. When it comes to, so I'll give you my personal testimony. My personal testimony is that when I was 18 years old, I had started, I was a freshman in college, and I was in a computer lab writing emails to a list of high school friends where we had started arguing about things. And we used to argue philosophy and stuff when we were in high school. And I sat down and asked myself, do I believe that there's a God? And I definitely do believe that there's a God. I don't believe in atheists, and I think atheism is just plain obviously stupid and wrong. So, if I do believe that there is a God, how do I get to know that God? And I sincerely believe that if the only way for me to know God is if God wants to reveal himself to me. And so, while being unsure of the destination, I thought, well, if God wants, I sincerely believe this today, right? If God wants me to know him, right, he must have given me a clue, a path towards that. And one of my earliest memories is being in synagogue with my dad. And so there's a ceremony which Father Stephen says the Eastern Orthodox have a similar one with the Gospels, where there's the procession with the Torah scroll, and it is shown to the entire congregation, right? And I remember my father actually holding me up. I must have been 3 or 4, and he so adult Jewish men wear a prayer shawl during morning services, and he, with the fringes, what is traditional is to point towards the scroll and say one of the 2 verses which are from the Bible, which the Talmud says, there's an argument in the Talmud which one you should teach your child first. The answer is pretty much everyone would say Deuteronomy 6:4, which is the Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. The other verse, which there is in contention and de facto is usually the second verse people teach their children, is it actually, if I remember correctly, comes from that it's a different verse that comes from my bar mitzvah parsha, but there's a similar one, but like the verse is Torah tziva lanu Moshe Marsha Kehilat Yaakov, and my name's there. So that last word, Yaakov, Jacob. Torah tziva lanu Moshe Marsha Kehilat Yaakov. Moses commanded us the Torah as a inheritance to the children of to the congregation of Jacob, right? And Zot HaTorah Asher Sam Moshe Lifnei Bnei Israel. This is, and you point to it and you say, this is the Torah which Moses set before the children of Israel. And I thought to myself that is my clue. That has to be my clue. That has to be my starting point. And I may end somewhere else, but if God wants me to know him, right, I have to start there. And that was indeed the beginning of my path. Was, okay, let's start with this, with Moses. And I have to say, I was actually thinking about making a video, kind of like a message to Christians, about things I think they should consider. And one of the things I constantly remind Christians of is, let me actually find the verse.
It's interesting that Moses is really important to you.
John 5:46 through 47. This is Jesus speaking. For if you believed Moses, you would believe me, for he wrote of me. But if you do not believe his writings, how will you believe my words? And I think Christians often fail to grasp that. And Father Stephen very much agrees with me that, and this is one of his criticisms of Protestants, is there is a understanding of Christianity among some Christians which believes that Jesus came and shone a different light, something that in a very real sense like invalidates Moses.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Christ himself says, I didn't come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it.
And but what exactly that means, right?
Yeah.
And, but
the message is that he's not just getting rid of everything.
Yeah, but if you do not believe in Moses, how can you believe in Jesus? Right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I don't invalidate anyone's religious path, right? I don't believe that a human being is capable of fully understanding God outside of the revelations that God imparts to us. And so, in a very real sense, this may appear to be, it's definitely a soft perennialism. And I do believe in soft perennialism. I am not a perennialist. Are you aware of perennialism?
Looking it up right now, but you can explain it.
So perennialism is the idea that, so what I would call hard perennialism is that all religions are equal, right? That just as long as you believe in religion, whether it's Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, it's all good. That's perennialism. I certainly disagree with that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Bible definitely speaks against that.
Yeah. At the same time, I believe that there are faithful Hindus who, based on where they started, are far more faithful, far more righteous, far more deserving of a share in and a better share in the world to come than many, many, many Jews who grew up with what I believe to be the fullness of revelation, which includes the Tanakh and Talmud and everything, right?
I agree with you.
And in a very real sense, I think that's in fact what Paul is explaining in Romans. He is saying that there are people who, without being exposed to Moses, are more faithful than people who grew up in the lap of complete revelation. And for him, that would probably be like, even like, okay, somebody who saw Jesus but has less faith, right? then in God, as I understand Paul in Romans, and I am no, because I don't know Greek, I am very reluctant to say I understand Paul, right? At the same time, I think that how I am describing Paul is congruent with how Father Stephen would um, describe Paul. And while I don't agree with everything Father Stephen says about Paul, um, I think he must be making at least an argument worth considering, as much as the understandings that other people have. And there are definitely people who have a very different understanding of Paul than what I think I am describing right now.
Okay.
But the question becomes, right, did everybody who lived during and actually visibly saw Jesus, right, from a Christian standpoint, and even maybe was a follower and let's say even an apostle of Jesus, does that person necessarily have a greater faith than somebody who at the very same on the very same day was born in China, was raised completely, in a completely different environment, but because of their faithfulness, because of their commitment towards being good and righteous and godly and true faith in the creator as best they know them, right? Yeah, I mean, you could even say, well, certainly Judas, right? But the question becomes, okay, is there somebody who met Jesus but responded less out of their own free will? And just to be clear, I think Calvinism is one of the worst heresies possible. To say that, it's only, we are totally depraved and it is only through irresistible grace of God that anyone can have faith in God at all. I think that may be the greatest blasphemy anyone has ever spoken. Yes, Paul, that was just for you. Paul Vanderklee. Yeah. I actually made Paul wear my prayer shawl while he was giving his sermon on Sunday a few years ago. I'm weird like that. Love you, Paul. Despite all your blasphemies. But I believe sincerely that this is the actual message of Judaism, is that and I think Father Stephen is right in saying that he believes it is the message of Paul. And I also believe that once Christians understand what Father Stephen is saying, they will murder him. Because I think the vast majority of Christians think that how I view how I view Paul is not Christianity at all.
Yeah, because you do have to reconcile things that Christ says that like no one can come to the Father except through me. Like I am the way, the truth, and the life. Like I definitely side with you with where you're at. Like I think as long as people, do their honest best to follow the truth, like be righteous. Like I think, especially looking at it through the perspective of God is love and mercy. Like I definitely think those people will be rewarded fully. And it's like we all have like in our human nature, like Paul says, like the laws written on our hearts. Like we all can agree on certain things that like shooting a baby is bad, and like being nice is a good virtue to have. So that definitely like gives me faith that there is like some like objective like truth and higher up there, but like why the God of Israel specifically?
So I am going to say something that is shocking, and I understand it is shocking and provocative, and it is definitely shocking and provocative both, but I sincerely believe no one comes to the Father except through me. I am the truth, the way, and the life. And if you reject what I tell you, you will be lost. And I don't believe that in any way I contravened Judaism, Jewish teaching, by saying that to you.
Okay.
I am the way. I am the way towards the Father. And unless you know me, you will be lost.
Yeah, that is a big statement for sure.
It is, unless you actually understand the ancient Near East concept of agency, which was not unique to the Hebrews. It was pervasive in Egyptian, Babylonian, Mesopotamian, Assyrian society. As an agent of God, that is my job, to be that image bearer of God in the world. This was a commonly understood ancient Near East theory of agency, which I think Christians just cannot comprehend.
I think the Orthodox Church practices and emphasizes it.
I think actually the Catholic Church, to some extent, also does, when they talk about the priest in Loco Christi. But no one comes to the Father except through me. Uh, you could even say an icon, right? But I think the Protestant rejection of priests being in Loco Christi comes from the misunderstanding that most Christians have of um, of what Jesus was saying. So my problem with Christianity is not Christians say say of Jesus that he represented God in the world. My problem with Christians is that they think that Jesus represented God in the world in a way that they themselves cannot.
I mean, I think I agree with that though, because I mean, at least from my perspective and like what he claims to be, like he is like they do just come into like an icon of the Father. Like I know we're all made in the image and likeness of God, but like Jesus is directly God, like one with the Father himself. So he does represent like the unseen, unknowable God in a way that we can't. Although I'm open to being corrected.
So I'm answering Paul Vanderklay at the same time that I'm answering you.
Yeah.
And but so let me answer him and then we'll go back to your question. The question asked was, why do you believe the God of the Bible is God? And this is the answer. Why don't you tell him why you think the God of the Bible is the true God? Can you do you want to answer this sola scriptura Christian and his Protestant ways, or should I?
Oh, what denomination is he?
He's I mean, this is the most Protestant thing anyone has ever said. It's like, why don't you give me a propositional answer to the question, Jacob, as opposed to embodying godliness in the world, Jacob? Because why would anyone believe that you would have to know God by getting to know human beings? That would be silly of you, Jacob. We all, like Martin Luther, was right about everything, obviously, Jacob. Right, Paul? That's what you're saying to me? Okay. What was your question again?
I forgot what I just said.
I forgot what you just said too.
Oh, because you said that you had something against Christians for saying that we can't be representatives of God in the same way that Jesus was.
Yes.
Well, I mean, like, we Christians and like Christ claims to be like one with the Father, and like we believe that like he is God himself. So he does represent the unknown, unseeable God in a way that we are trying to go after. Like, he sets the example and then we follow.
Okay. So are you able to follow him?
Yeah.
So you can represent God in the world in the way that Jesus does.
Yeah, that's the whole goal of Christianity, to like
So
on
this
not,
is an understanding of theosis and sanctification that Father Stephen claims is the belief of Christians. I am guessing that there are Christians who will listen to this exchange and think you are being blasphemous.
Yeah, it's the problem is like I feel you on Protestantism. Like I feel like it's one of the worst things to ever happen to humanity. Unfortunately, like if you could just like understand Christianity, at least when you're talking to me, to make things a bit more simple, as like if you could just think of Christianity as like Orthodox Christianity, because I know like different Christians believe in tons of different things. Just how like different, like, ask like two Jews a question, you'll have like three answers.
Right.
Thing. But I do feel like Orthodox Christianity has the true faith. So like if you could go after the Orthodox Church's perspective and not just
So there are several people in the world who, yeah, that is not Andrew, although he does kind of look like Andrew. I don't know if you know Andrew.
I think I've seen him on your show. Is he like half mixed?
half Asian? Yeah, he's half Chinese, half French. Yeah, here.
Okay.
I will briefly flash his picture on this. I'm going to use. That's
Yeah.
Andrew.
Nice. He's cooler than me. I'm half Chinese and half just Caucasian. So
just Caucasian. You're not Chinese.
No, I'm half.
Ah, okay. Yeah, no. So he's half. Yeah, his father is French and his mother is Chinese.
Yeah, it's always the mom that's Asian in the mixed relationships.
Always. So Andrew is half eating when he's on the show. Usually, yeah. For Secret Santa on my Discord, his Secret Santa got him cereal because he's always eating cereal on my thing.
That's funny.
I don't know if the French are Caucasian. Back to what you were saying. So there are people who currently attend Eastern Orthodox churches because they believe that I am right about Judaism.
Interesting.
And this is one of the weird synergies that Father Stephen and I have. I believe that the Eastern Orthodox Church is wrong in many ways about many things. I believe that the vast majority of Eastern Orthodox priests, bishops, and laity probably don't understand what Father Stephen is saying, despite Father Stephen's assurances that nobody finds what he says to be dramatically wrong. I believe that once he clearly, like, once Christian, even Eastern Orthodox Christians understand what he's saying, they will murder him. I'm not joking about that. I really do believe they will murder him. And I think he believes in Judaism. Like, if you were to ask me, are his beliefs Jewish or Christian, I would say his beliefs are actually Orthodox Jewish, not Orthodox Christian. Obviously, he disagrees with me, but what does he know about what he believes?
If you had to be a Christian, which denomination would you choose?
I have clearly stated to people, okay, if you're going to be Christian, go to an Eastern Orthodox church. There are people who currently attend Eastern Orthodox churches because they are Noachides.
Yeah, I mean, like, we Christians do believe that, like, we are at least, like, the Christian faith is the fulfillment of Judaism.
Okay, so I have to say, yes, there are also people who are Noachides who go to believe that I'm right. And that's because I have told them that because in the West, I think converting to Eastern Orthodoxy in the West is one of the most Protestant things you can do, because you're choosing which church to go to because you agree with their propositional beliefs, not because that is the Christian community in which you live.
Do you think that's bad?
Yes.
But what if you want to have the right beliefs? Like, what if I grew up in, like, a Calvin community? You want me to stay at Calvin?
So let me see if I can find my picture of Paul Vanderklay that I like teasing him with. I have it somewhere around here. Where's my picture of Paul the Catholic? Where's my picture of Paul the Catholic? This is going to be hard to find. Oh, there it is. Let me open this with Chrome so you can see it. So I've used this icon several times, which is Paul Vanderklay's face superimposed on a pope wearing a tiara, right?
10 out of 10 editing right there.
10 out of 10 editing. It is so great. But we have our Noachide here, our resident Noachide.
Also Roman Catholic,
ex-Roman
ex-Calvinist.
Yeah,
and flirted with Orthodoxy.
Eastern Orthodoxy, and went to Calvin College, soon to be renamed Servetus University.
If it survives.
I think the monarchical trinity is vastly superior to the egalitarian trinity. I think the filioque is a severely problematic propositional belief. I am very, very glad that the Catholic priest, who I consider a friend, Father Eric, believes that the monarchical trinity is more in line with Catholic liturgy than how it's usually described. Yes, that is my puppy with his squeaky toy. I also believe that choosing the community of people you live with and you are a part of their community based on whether or not they agree with your beliefs is one of the dumbest things a human being can possibly do.
I just disagree though, because like I feel like we should all be after truth, not just whatever you're born into.
Of course, you should be after truth, but does that mean that your neighbors that you love and live with and are in communion with and in community with are people who believe the same, like, is truth I mean, I'm thinking of that midrash which says that in order to create the world, God threw truth to the ground, right? And that is a very deep symbolism of throwing truth to the ground, right? What is true? What I say I believe, or what I actually live out in my daily life?
Neither.
What is truth? And I'm not saying that like
okay, Pilate.
I am saying what is truth. The same way that like I was ridiculing our dear friend Paul Vanderklay when he said, "Why don't you tell the man what you believe?" And I told you, "I am the truth, the way, and the life. No one approaches the Father but through me." I am trying to represent God as I understand him in the world. That means that I spent my Saturdays, and lots of people would disagree with me that this is the proper thing to do, but I spent my Saturday in a psych ward. And that might be a very Christian thing to do, but I was thinking of God saying through Jesus, whatever you do to the least of these, you do to me. I spent my Saturday working in a psych ward.
Mm-hmm.
That's me expressing truth. There were precisely 0 Orthodox Jews at that psych ward.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't it say in Exodus though, like if you work on the Sabbath, like you are to be killed? Like, not saying I want to kill you or anything, but like that's what it says.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And a lot of Christians like will ridicule Jews for that, but like if you want to stay faithful to the scriptures, I mean, the scriptures say what they say.
They do, but is that what the scriptures like? Is the scripture? Do you? I will tell you there are 0 Orthodox Jews in the world who believe that the psych wards should have no people in them. Maybe Jews shouldn't be working in them on the Sabbath, but on the Sabbath, like, okay, if there are Gentiles who could do the same work, sure, right? And frankly, I mean, my life and the community I live in is one where I am not going to stop picking up my phone on the Sabbath for various reasons, right? So frankly, when I am at work on Saturdays, I personally believe I am far, far more. There's a reason I chose to work Saturdays and not Sundays, because I thought that I was being more observant, because frankly, no, I wouldn't be in a synagogue, in an Orthodox synagogue. That's not the community in which I live. Unfortunately, I did live in an Orthodox Jewish community. My family did not work with that, and that was, I mean, I am where I am. I very much feel like Jonah in Nineveh, but I like my understanding. I am living an Orthodox Jewish life as best as I understand, and I will tell you that Yosef and Chezi would both, and frankly, my rabbi would both say that I am a far more faithful Jew than plenty of Jews who claim to keep the Sabbath and are Orthodox Jews.
Yeah, I mean that's what Christ like was preaching about, how it's not just like what you do outwardly, but it's like, you know, the inward state of you, and like, do you love the poor and all that. So I definitely see where you're coming from, but like if you want to, but then that brings it back to the faith. So like if you think the faith that you have is the truth, and why not follow it to its you know, to its ends, to
I am following it to its ends.
So then why do you think it would tell you to not work on the Sabbath?
Not work on the Sabbath is we live, truth has been thrown to the ground. We are not Gnostics. We live in this world, and I live with the community with which I live, and I live within myself as the person that I am, right? So and this is a criticism of the Pharisees, which I believe Jesus had, which I believe Orthodox Judaism has always had. So the word Pharisee, okay? The word Pharisee means people who are set apart. And the only times it is used in the Mishnah, which is the core of the Talmud, is as a critical pejorative. Right? Yes, we are the descendants of the Pharisees. And I don't own any of the t-shirts that said "Be a Pharisee, Father Stephen DeYoung" anymore, because I gave them away to people, but I bought 4 of them. I thought I was going to keep all 4, but I ended up I thought I was going to keep 1, and I ended up giving away all 4. But like, in a very real sense, I will say be a Pharisee. At the same time, the concept of Pharisee that most Christians have, I don't think is at all true to anything Jesus said. Father Stephen and I agree so much more than, frankly, I do with almost any other Christian. And I think it's because Father Stephen understands Judaism better than he understands Christianity. And I realize that that's saying something incredibly weird. And like Kamini, I disagree as well. Father Stephen is perfectly Eastern Orthodox. If you believe Father Stephen is perfectly Orthodox, you understand Christianity in a way that I think is antithetical to what Christianity has been for thousands of years.
But we as Eastern Orthodox would say that that is true Christianity, and everyone else has like a false.
Yeah.
Because how can you say like you like, because yeah, we just have different denominations, just have different beliefs.
I think if more people understood what Father Stephen is saying, they would kill him. I think within Eastern Orthodoxy, if they understood what a Judaizer he is, and Jonathan Pajot told me that people criticize Father Stephen as a Judaizer within Eastern Orthodoxy.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with them. I think he is a Judaizer. I think he's not. I don't even think he's teaching precisely what Paul of Tarsus taught. But hey, I don't care, because ultimately, like, I don't believe it's about propositional truth and what's in your mind. I believe it's about how you live your life.
Yeah, but then you can also say how do you live your life? Because like, what is like the ideal life?
I think Jesus put it very well when he was asked, what is the greatest commandment? And he said, do exactly as Hillel said. Well, he said other words, but that's what he was saying. He was quoting Hillel. The greatest commandment is love the Lord your God with all your might and all your soul and all your heart. And the second is like it, love your fellow as yourself.
But then I still ask, like, okay, like, why do we think that's truth? Why not, like, it comes back to, like, why is the faith true? Because, like, why not just do what, like Islam says, or, why believe Jesus at all? Maybe it's just like, another, like,
I don't believe Jesus at all. That he was quoting Moses.
okay, so why believe in, like, the Hebrew scriptures at all, though? Because this all goes back to the Hebrew scriptures.
Yeah,
Good.
Yeah.
Let's ask Nick.
Ask who?
Nick.
Oh, about
that question.
Which question?
Why believe in the Hebrew scriptures at all?
Yeah, why believe in the Hebrew scriptures at all, Nick?
I mean, I first, like, believed in Jesus, and then so, like, he affirms he affirms not the whole Old Testament, but he does affirm a lot of it. But like the church that he left behind does affirm the Hebrew scriptures, and so that's why I not totally affirm them right now, but like accept them, because I sort of have to if I want to believe in Christ.
So you believe in Christ, and that's why you believe in Moses.
Yeah, but I'm not even sure if I believe in Moses, because like I've heard a lot of people say he wasn't a real person, like his birth story about him being put in a basket and put down a river, like Romulus and Remus. They both had the same beginning in their lives, and so it does make me question the faith a little bit, for sure.
That's weird, man. Like, I've heard a lot of things about virgin birth and Roman religion. So where does the rabbit hole end?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Okay. We have to go back to the Gospel of John here.
Well, that's why I'm asking Jacob, like, why is this faith the true faith and not like other faiths or beliefs?
How do I get rid of this stupid? This is not good.
Well, what drug are they selling you there?
Yeah, I don't. Pepto-Bismol, apparently. So where's a good place to start? Let's start. Witnesses to Jesus. Verse 30, chapter 5 of John in the ESV. Who joins? Yoav. Ma shlomcha?
I'm fine. Getting better and better.
Shavua tov.
Shavua tov.
I can do nothing on my own. This is Jesus speaking. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just, because I seek not my own will, but the will of him who sent me. If I alone bear witness about myself, my testimony is not true. There is another who bears witness about me, and I know that the testimony that he bears about me is true. You sent to John, and he has borne witness to the truth. Not that the testimony that I receive is from man, but I say these things so that you may be saved. He was a burning and shining lamp, and you were willing to rejoice for a while in his light. But the testimony that I have is greater than that of John, for the works that the Father has given me to accomplish, the very works that I am doing, bear witness about me that the Father has sent me. And the Father who sent me has himself borne witness about me. His voice you have never heard, his form you have never seen. You do not have his word abiding in you, for you do not believe the one whom he has sent. You search the scriptures because you think that in them you have eternal life, and it is they that bear witness about me. Yet you refuse to come to me that you may have life. I do not receive glory from people, but I know that you do not have the love of God within you. I have come in my Father's name, and you do not receive me. If another comes in his own name, you will receive him. How can you believe when you receive glory from one another, and do not seek the glory that comes from the only God? Do not think that I will accuse you to the Father. There is one who accuses you, Moses, on whom you have set your hope. For if you believed Moses, you would believe me, for he wrote of me. But if you do not believe his writings, how will you believe my words? So I will ask you the question Jesus asks you, Nick. If you do not believe Moses, how do you believe in Jesus?
Yeah, it's something I got to look into.
Yoav, you must
Yeah.
have had something to say.
Yeah, I wanted to explain why you should believe the 5 books of the early scripture. And because they are completely a matter of behavior, of human behavior, of human perspective, of human position, and not propositional. And to understand what I'm saying, you have to visit a Yemenite synagogue.
What synagogue?
A Yemen synagogue is a synagogue of Jews who originally come from the country of Yemen. It was in the news of late, always. And the way they read the Bible is as follows. There is somebody who's doing the actual reading, and everybody is listening. And if the person who is reading deviates from the tradition, even by the way that he pronounces a syllable, even by the tune of the way he pronounces a syllable, never mind just mistaking a letter, that will be catastrophic. Just not singing it right, then not one and not two, but the whole synagogue heckles him and corrects him. And if this is the best error correction algorithm the world has ever knew. And I came to say this because this will be better than the way that Jacob would have described it. Jacob will describe it by somebody's reading and then somebody's correcting. But it's better than that. It's somebody reading and everybody's correcting. And this is only in one synagogue. And if even one synagogue will come to an error, there will be all the other synagogues. You don't get closer to truth than that.
So the reason Yoav is the chief rabbi of Northern Tel Aviv is, despite the fact I'm sure he didn't go to synagogue, not yesterday, and not every 3 days like he's supposed to hear the Torah, that actually is the answer that Orthodox Judaism would give you to that question, is the testimony of the witnesses throughout time, from generation to generation, to the truth of the Torah as a revelation that has been handed down to Israel from generation to generation over thousands of years, and we bear testimony to it formally in synagogue at least once every 3 days, and do it all the way back.
Also, I sometimes wonder to what extent my belief is not a simple ancestor worship. That's the most primitive belief that you can have. Because who am I looking at? Mostly, I mean, there are lots of people who are influencing me. Paul van der Klee is one. But who is I'm looking most for? Forming how will I live my life? And that would be my father. And although I recognize that he had some human weaknesses, if I look further into his father, then whatever weaknesses he had are already blurred out and erased, and whatever remains in my eye is more of an idealized figure. And if I go on the chain all the way up, you said it's fathers all the way up, then somehow at the totality of the chain, I wonder what is it missing than God? So of course it's not the creator of the physical world. Nobody ever thought it was, but why is it not the creator of my spiritual world? What is not the chain of all fathers all the way up? Why is it not the creator of the world we live in? This is something I ponder.
Yeah, I pondered that as well. And the thing you say about like keeping the faith, staying true to the faith from generation to generation. I mean, there's so many different forms, and I feel like there always has been of Judaism.
So one of the strong beliefs we have is that while there will, until the coming of the Messiah, there will be a diversity of beliefs among Jews. What will survive, and this is Acts 5, right? What Gamliel says, and it's a perfectly Jewish belief, right? That which survives as Judaism from generation to generation is the truth of Jewish belief. And that's why we know Christianity is false. Because the Jews who followed it failed to remain Israel, failed to remain Jews. And same reason why I would say Orthodox Judaism is true. Obviously, Reform and Conservative, which are the other strains that are currently living. But all of Judaism that can go by that name, like 300 years ago, we all come from the same, from like the Judaism that exists today is unanimous as to who were the leading rabbis and actual teachers of Judaism 300 years ago. There is no large stream of Judaism that does not trace its thing to what was Orthodox Judaism even 200 years ago.
Another thing, there's a smooth transition. Well, you have those 5 books, which Jacob considered the word of God. And then there you have the letter books, in which you can claim, you can look for historical, archaeological truth. And there is a smooth transition between them in the book of Joshua and Judges. But when you get to Kings, it's already a proper history book. And we are reading Kings nowadays every Thursday evening, and everybody's invited. And if you come on a Thursday evening my time, to hear what I'm saying of the Book of Kings, I'm sure we'll hear you will hear things that you will not hear anywhere else. That's for sure. But for example, archaeologically, we have found a stone in which there was an inscription by the king of Moab. Moab is somewhere like Middle Jordan nowadays, Transjordan. And he boasts that his country was subdued by the kingdom of Israel. So the Israelis have conquered the kingdom of Middle Jordan. And he has rebelled against the Israelis, and he won, and he's achieved his independence, and he's thanking his gods for the victory. So this is archaeological, historical truth. And then we open the Book of Kings, and we read a chapter that I, to say the truth, completely forgot about, and I'm sure most people have forgot about. And in which we read that three kings, the king of the kingdom of Israel, and the king of the kingdom of Judea, and the king of Edom, this is south of Jordan, are uniting against the king of Moab, the king of Middle Jordan. And because he has rebelled against the Israelis, they go to war with him. And it described how they win over him and how they subdued Moab yet again. And it's the time, the period matches the period in which of the inscription that was found on stone in Jordan. So how can it not be historical truth? So for me, I'm only the rabbi of North Tel Aviv because I read both. I read the archaeology and I read the Bible. And at some point they merge.
I feel like that doesn't get to the core though, because I know like a lot of the Bible, not all of it is like historically accurate, but what if someone says like it can be historically accurate, but then you sprinkle in like these divine things that weren't actually true? And like obviously you can't also find archaeological evidence for like all the books in the Hebrew scriptures.
So one discussion that I've had with Father Stephen is what are the outer limits of what a Jew has to believe to be an Orthodox Jew about the literal nature of what the Bible says. And this is something that I have verified with multiple rabbis who are what's called a rabbinic decisor, which the best way I can translate what that means to a Christian is to say that we believe that what they bind and loose on earth is bound and loose in heaven. And both Rabbi Burton said that I can publicly quote him on this, and Rabbi Breitowitz said that I can publicly quote him on this. Michael, I don't know you. Could you raise your left hand, please? Yay, okay.
I'm Kamini.
What? Oh,
Did
okay. Yeah, okay. Nice to meet you. Have you been on before?
Very briefly, I kind of had like audio issues and ran.
Aha.
So,
Okay. Welcome. Rabbi Breitowitz said I can publicly quote him on this, and Rabbi Burton said I can publicly quote him on this, both of whom are rabbinic decisors. They said that according to Maimonides, a Jew who believes that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were merely allegories, that they didn't actually believe, they didn't actually live as individual human beings who were, parents of father and son. Such a person would not be considered a heretic within Orthodox Judaism. Okay? And what I told Father Stephen is that the reason I am adamant in my belief that Moses was an individual human being who set ink to vellum, right, and wrote the 5 books of Moses pretty much in the form that we have it, is because it is considered an axiomatic belief of Orthodox Judaism, and I am subjugating my own understanding to that which I have more faith in, which is the Jewish tradition, which insists that is something, as an Orthodox Jew, I must believe. Okay?
Do you think Moses himself wrote all the books?
Let's not get into that, because while I don't want to get into the exact nitty-gritty,
Okay.
I believe that every single letter of the Torah as we have it must be as it is, and that it is as faithful as divinely possible for us to have precisely that which Moses wrote. And part of this is my belief in the supernatural. I do believe in miracles, and I do believe that for it to be that way, it would have to be some form of miracle, which I don't quite understand, but I do believe in miracles because I believe in miracles. But this is me suspending my materialism and my disbelief in like materialism, right? Anyway, when I said that to Father Stephen, he said, "You have a more literal view of Moses than I do."
Does Father Stephen think Moses was a real person that walked on earth?
I think he thinks there was a person named Moses. I don't think he thinks that Moses himself necessarily wrote things down or lived precisely life exactly as it is described.
To be fair, that's not as important to Father Stephen, though.
It's not nearly as important to Father Stephen as it is to me. But frankly, if Orthodox Judaism didn't insist on it, I wouldn't care.
Yeah, I asked that question because you said you believe Moses did put, he did write on the tablets and everything. And
pen to paper.
Pen to paper. Yeah, I believe that because Orthodox Judaism says that is a. But I believe in Orthodox Judaism enough to suspend my general beliefs in how we know things and be like, okay, I am going to take this as faith that happened.
How would you explain Deuteronomy describing Moses' death?
Oh, that the Talmud discusses and gives various opinions to. So we don't necessarily. So within Orthodox Judaism, you can certainly believe that Moses did not write the last 10 lines. So that's already in the Talmud.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
How prevalent is the position that Joshua wrote it?
I would say the vast majority of Orthodox Jews don't believe that Joshua wrote it. They believe that Moses wrote it in prophecy. I think it's actually a lot more problematic when you get to the questions of where it says, yes, we all know the horrible beliefs you have, Chazi, which God have mercy on your soul. And hopefully Chazi is still a Jew, but who knows? I'm joking. Most people would probably say Chazi still has a place in the world to come, despite the heretical things he says.
Your kippah is bigger than his.
Definitely, yes. But back to it is a lot more problematic. I think the questions of all the, and so it is called until this day, and on the other side of Jordan, you've heard all the documentary stuff. And while there are minority opinions within Judaism, I could quote at you, and there are people that Chazi believes are rabbis who should be allowed to walk into Orthodox synagogues. I generally disagree with the idea that they should be allowed to walk into Orthodox synagogues. They who have certain beliefs that Chazi probably likes. Nathan Slifkin, I have things I believe on faith. So here, I will read you guys one of Jacob's greatest hits. You guys love Jacob's greatest hits, don't you? Say yes. We love Jacob's greatest hits.
The top 40, or are we like going beyond?
This, I don't know if this is top 40. I did speak of this actually to when I was on one of my first discussions with Paul Vanderklay, our dear friend. May God have mercy on his soul. Let me find this. Here it is. Share this tab. Could you pull up this tab, please, Jonathan? Okay.
Which tab?
It's fine. I will do it myself.
Sorry.
Okay. It's fine. Okay. I have told this story many times before, but something Free Man of Despair is actually Rabbi Isaac, who is Rabbi with No Knife on my Discord. And while I have many, many disagreements with him, including certain things which I think are certainly bordering on heretical, he is a rabbinic decizer who is on my Discord server. So there's that. Said made me want to write it out in great detail. I figured I would make a public post about it. I have always been blessed with a sharper mind than most. I wish I could say this was the result of hard work, but it really wasn't. I was just born with it, and it always let me be lazier and more arrogant than I should be. I almost never did my homework in school and still got A's in everything. Yes, PE brought down my GPA significantly. I only read what interested me, which usually wasn't the assigned reading. It didn't matter. I would still get good scores on any test. I made a point of taking standardized tests on subjects I knew nothing about and getting decent scores. It was a point of pride in my rivalry with my sister, who is a hard worker and terrible test taker. Even though I went to good schools with gifted students, I was always one of the smartest kids in the class. I figured the same would be true when I decided to spend a year studying in a yeshiva in Israel after college. I was going to yeshiva for Balei Teshuvah, people who came to the religion later in life. I was not raised with much of a Jewish education and had never ever even seen a page of Talmud before. I figured I would be much smarter than most of the students and smarter than many of the teachers. This was not exactly the top yeshiva in the world, and I did not have much respect for even the top yeshivas when compared to the universities. My first class in Talmud introduced me to the basic commentaries of Rashi and the Tosafists. A page of Talmud has the main text in the middle. On one side is printed the commentary of Rashi on the main text, and the other side has the commentary of the Tosafists on Rashi. I remember one of the very first few days of class. I was sitting there trying to figure out what the Talmud was saying, what Rashi was trying to say, the Talmud was saying, and what the Tosafists were disagreeing with Rashi about what the Talmud was saying. I didn't get any of it. Anybody who knows me knows that I have a very low tolerance for bullshit. If I don't understand something, it is often because it is bullshit. There's a lot of bullshit in the world. Lots of people try to hide their bullshit through sounding profound and claiming to understand things that are beyond other people. The Trinity. These are usually the dumbest and worst of the bullshitters. I make it a point not to put up with bullshit from dumb people who condescend to others. I detest obscurantism. Trinity. One of the greatest compliments I ever received was when Eric Weinstein and Paul Vanderklay both reiterated the same complaint in a short span. They said, "It is scary to talk to me because I just don't let people get away with bullshit." They didn't say it to compliment me, but I took it as a compliment anyway. I will call people on things that don't make sense and demand they explain, as opposed to simply gloss over it and nod along. Some people appreciate this, many people don't. I have sometimes wished I could turn it off. I realize that it can be a vice, yet I think it has its utility. Bullshit is harmful. Truth matters. Sneering condescension as a cover for bullshit is an unforgivable sin in my book. It is blasphemy against the divine logos. My God is Elohim Emet, the true God. I was sitting there in Jerusalem at one of the best remedial yeshivas in the world with my first serious bit of Talmud study. I couldn't make heads or tails of it at all, despite having translated every single word carefully and spending hours trying to fathom it. I had to ask myself if it is just bullshit. Was I wasting my time trying to understand gibberish? I sat there thinking through it. This is not just any text. It is the Babylonian Talmud. It's not a random selection of the Talmud either. It is the selection that the yeshiva had chosen to lead with. This is what they had chosen at this yeshiva, which is supposed to impress upon me the greatness of Talmudic learning as my first real taste of Talmud. This has to be the best of the Talmud, not some embarrassing bit of gibberish everyone would rather forget is there or hide away in some appendix. I had no doubt that a work as ancient and massive as the Talmud had some embarrassing stupidities in it, so maybe this was just one of them. Yet it didn't seem plausible to me that the yeshiva would lead with it, with the embarrassing stupidity. They must at least imagine that it is impressive. Was Rabbinic Judaism just a fraud? So there I am, Jacob versus thousands of years of thousands of rabbis studying a text that is foundational to a religion which places the word at the very center of its priorities. Either all those rabbis had bought into bullshit that I could see through easily on my first day, or I just was not getting it. I definitely have lots of chutzpah, audacity, but even my chutzpah has limits. Nope, I must not be getting it. So I sat there, steiging, toiling to understand. Then it came to me. I felt for the first time what is termed breaking your head on the Talmud. Very suddenly, it felt like something broke open. It was an amazing experience, something I became enamored with. I have not been able to repeat this experience since those halcyon days when I would spend a good 40 hours in 1 week on only a few lines of Talmud with several commentaries. Every sugya passage presented a new opportunity to break my head again and again. I imagined that if I die and go to heaven, I will get to sit all day and break my head on the Talmud over and over again. This is how I understand what it means to sit with a crowned head and enjoy the shine of the glory of God's presence. That's a quote from Maimonides' last chapter of his Mishnah Torah, his restatement of the Torah, where he describes what the world to come is going to be. A bit of the world to come. Shortly afterward, the Mashgiach, spiritual director of my yeshiva, gave a speech which described the experience for me. It seemed like more than a coincidence that this was his speech right after my experience. He seemed to be speaking directly to me, despite the fact he was speaking to all the assembled students of the entire yeshiva. It was a speech expounding on the meaning of Psalm 147, Hanoten sheleg katsamer, kafor ka'efer yefazer, mashlich karcho kefitim, lifnei karato miyamod, yishlach devaro v'yamsem, yashev rucho yizlu mayim, magid devarav le'Yaakov, chukav u'mishpatav le'Israel. He who sets snow like wool, spreads frost like ashes. He sends forth his ice like crumbs. Who can withstand his cold? He will send forth his word and melt them. He will turn back his wind. They shall run as water. He declares his word to Jacob, his statutes and judgments to Israel. Psalm 147, 16 through 19. The words Magid Devarav le'Yaakov, he declares his word to Jacob, were never the same to me again. I still remember Rav Bullman of blessed memory explaining how a page of Talmud, which is like a sheet of ice, breaks and flows like water. Each crumb is a gift from God himself. Who can withstand his cold? Many days later, an Orthodox Jewish stand-up comedian made a new pun on that line, which also stays with me. Who can withstand karato, his cold, can also be translated in modern Hebrew as who can withstand his karate. I was completely defeated and loved every minute of it. I was thrown off my feet as masterfully as any black belt could demonstrate. At the yeshiva, we had a hand signal for the study of Talmud. We would make a gesture like a heroin addict smacking their arm, looking for a vein to inject in preparation for a hit. It seemed appropriate despite the fact I had no idea what it was like to inject heroin. That is what I imagined a hit of heroin must be like. It certainly felt that addictive. I was at a yeshiva for Baalei Teshuvah who had adopted Orthodox Judaism as adults, and many of us had tried many things before we got there. A few of the students had even been to prison. I didn't have much experience with drugs, but more than a few of the students did. My friend Menashe had been a deadhead and spoke about his experiences with drugs openly. I asked him if he had tried heroin and if Talmud study could actually compare. He told me that he had never actually tried heroin. He had tried copious amounts of other drugs, though. Then he asked me a rhetorical question, which also has stayed with me through the years. Why do you think I'm here now?
That was beautifully written.
Why, thank you. I used to write for a living a little bit. So
Yeah, I wish it kept going, honestly.
Give it to Grok.
get to make it a whole book. Yeah,
We'll keep going as long as you want.
yeah. But yeah, I was humbled that day by that piece of Talmud, and there are things which I have learned to trust, which are above my own knowledge and understanding, which includes the rabbis. And I have a picture of the Yenuka above my head, Rabbi Shlomo Be'eri, who is 37 years old, and may he live long and be well. If he is the Messiah, so I every once in a while I get Christians coming up with so and so is the Antichrist, and I always look, and he doesn't seem like such a great candidate to be the Antichrist. And when I first heard of the Yenuka, it was because a bunch of Christians had decided that he's the Antichrist, and they came and asked me about him, and I went and looked him up and listened to some of his speeches, and I said, he might just be the Antichrist, by which I mean he might actually be the real Christ. Yeah, if he is, I am perfectly okay with that. If he's not, it'll be sad, but I'm also perfectly okay with that, because I actually believe in Acts 5 the way that I don't believe any Christian does.
Well, that's the thing with me with the Hebrew scriptures. It's like there's so much of them. It's like hard to know like if a person fits like what's being prophesied, just because I feel like so much is asked, especially of the Messiah. It's hard to agree on.
This is why I say to you, no one comes to the Father except through me. It's not about you sitting down and reading the Hebrew scriptures. It's about you recognizing who Israel is. It's about you recognizing who the priests of God are and following the priests of God. That is far more important. The Talmud makes fun of people who stand up in reverence for a Torah scroll, but not a scribe, because what is more silly than thinking that the scroll is holier than the scribe who wrote it and who lives it?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out too. Because like, I mean, right now I believe like those priests are like the Eastern Orthodox priests, and obviously like everyone else here like has their own opinions, and so like we have to. We're all trying to figure out like who those like appointed people are.
And I think it's incredibly important. Like this is my main disagreement with Father Stephen. He believes he is a priest, and I believe I am a priest, and that is our disagreement. Unfortunately, I would say there are still many more Christians who know of the Yenuka than there are Jews who know of the Yenuka. But part of that is because there's 2 billion Christians and there are very few Jews. But also, this was 2 or 3 years ago, and the Yenuka was only 34 back then. He's still very young to be as well known as a rabbi. Honestly, there's no rabbi of his caliber under the age of 70 that I know of. And that's part of what gives me so much hope about him. But yeah, the question I think ultimately is, okay, who is Israel? And I think every Christian has to answer who is a Jew, because it is fundamental to your religion who is a Jew and who is a fulfilled Jew. And the fact is that I think a Jew who there are Orthodox priests who come from a Jewish background, but they don't live out Judaism in a fulfilled manner as much as an Orthodox Jew does. And I think that's the problem that Christianity has. That when Jews believe that Jesus is the Messiah, they stop being Jews, and they have for thousands of years, which is why I think, like, here, let's read Acts 5, because why not? Can I pick a better, is there a better webpage than Bible Gateway for
Try Bible.
Bible Hub? Yeah, I use Bible Hub, but usually
I also do all my browsing with ad blockers on, so I'm not used to seeing ads when I read stuff.
What's the matter? Axe is not in Safari?
I
What's that?
am. Axe is not on Safari, no.
What's wrong with Bible Gateway?
Very, very funny. I don't like using ad blockers because it kind of seems like cheating to me. Like, if you don't want to use someone's website, don't use their website. But browsing their website with ad blockers kind of seems like stealing to me.
Hey, if the website doesn't want to use the whatever Google and
Yeah.
its extensions, then it doesn't have to. That's my thinking.
Okay. Acts 5. Let's start early with verse 24, even though we could start later. When the captain of the temple guard and the chief priests heard this account, they were perplexed as to what was happening. Then someone came in and announced, "Look, the men you put in jail are standing in the temple courts, teaching the people." At that point, the captain went with the officers and brought the apostles, but not by force, for fear the people would stone them. They brought them in and made them stand before the Sanhedrin, where the high priest interrogated them. And this is how you know that this was not a Pharisee Sanhedrin, because the high priest was not allowed on the Pharisee Sanhedrin unless he merited it, whereas the Sadducees believed that the high priest automatically had a seat on the Sanhedrin, and that was the leader of it. "We gave you strict orders not to teach in this name," he said. "You have filled Jerusalem with your teaching and are determined to make us responsible for this man's blood," which is another question I have to Christians. If Jerusalem was filled with Jesus' name, then what the F are you talking about? About the Jews rejected Jesus. But whatever. But Peter and the other apostles replied, "We must obey God rather than men. The God of our fathers raised up Jesus, whom you had killed by hanging him on a tree. God exalted him to his right hand as Prince and Savior in order to grant repentance and forgiveness of sins to Israel." To Israel. "We are witnesses of these things, and so is the Holy Spirit, whom God has given to those who obey him." When the council members heard this, they were enraged, and they resolved to put the apostles to death. But a Pharisee named Gamaliel, and funny enough, Gamaliel is where Judaism and Christianity split off, which was years after. So Gamaliel is a saint in the Eastern Orthodox Church, and he is certainly a part of the chain of rabbis which we adhere to, and that's after Jesus. A teacher of the law who was honored by all the people stood up in the Sanhedrin and ordered that the men be put outside for a short time. "Men of Israel," he said, he was talking to the men of Israel, not Gentiles. "Consider carefully what you are about to do to these men. Some time ago, Theudas rose up claiming to be somebody, and about 400 men joined him. He was killed. All his followers were dispersed, and it all came to nothing. After him, Judas the Galilean appeared in the days of the census and drew away people after him. he too perished, and all his followers were scattered. So in the present case, I advise you, leave these men alone, let them go, for if their purpose or endeavors is of human origin, it will fail. And I do believe Christianity did fail. But if it is from God, you will not be able to stop them. You may even find yourselves fighting against God. And at this, they yielded to Gamaliel. They called the apostles in and had them flogged. Then they ordered them not to speak in the name of Jesus and released them. The apostles left the Sanhedrin, rejoicing that they had been counted worthy of suffering disgrace for the name. Every day in the temple courts and from house to house, they did not stop teaching and proclaiming the good news that Jesus is the Christ. Now, I am plagiarizing from Rabbi Skobach, who is the rabbi of Jews for Judaism, which is a counter-missionary Jewish organization. He specifically leads them in Canada. They are also here in the United States. And he has a stump speech, which he has repeated in many places. And there's two versions of it that I've linked to on YouTube. The more recent one is probably the better one, but the older one also has things worth watching, where he goes through this passage while speaking to Orthodox Jews. And what he says is what I believe is very true, which is, what Gamaliel said seems true and right. If Jesus were the Messiah, then what he started would have continued. Well, it obviously hasn't. There are 0 Jews who converted to Christianity and kept the law, kept faith with God from 2,000 years ago. All of their children have been lost to history. They were destroyed. They have come to nothing. And that is all the proof that you need to know that the early Christians were wrong.
Ethiopia,
Now,
baby, Ethiopia.
I could also point to the Palestinians, but now, do you believe that the tribes that were dispersed in the Assyrian invasion, those are also part of Israel, and that they will be called back before the end of days,
So
or before that day?
there's various ways of explaining that. Quite clearly, at least some of members of the various tribes were also living in Judah, if not the bulk of them. And how exactly it will be in the ultimate eschatology, again, what Gamaliel says is the Jewish, there are 2 places where I was reading the Christian Bible and I was just gobsmacked and my mouth was literally left open. That was Mark 12, where Jesus teaches Judaism in its fullness clearly, and Christians seem to have completely forgotten it. And in Acts 5, which we just read, where Gamaliel teaches to Christians what Judaism has been saying for thousands of years, and Christians don't seem to be able to read it and get it, which is, it doesn't matter who you think the Messiah is. Stop trying to determine who the Messiah will be. What matters is that you not find yourself on the wrong side of God. And the only person who, in this discussion, finds themselves with the possibility of being on the wrong side of God are the people who insist that the Messiah can only be Jesus, as opposed to the Jews who are like, don't think so, but if he is, I don't give a damn.
Yeah, I honestly don't know enough about like the Hebrew scriptures to like say to like uh, go back and forth with you about if Christianity is like the true fulfillment of Judaism. I know Paul talks about in Romans how it wasn't just your bloodline that made you a Jew, like how Abraham was justified. I don't know if justified is the right word, but even like he uses Abraham as an example of a true Jew, and like he wasn't a true Jew just because of his bloodline. I think he was like God favored him or something
He
because
kept all the commandments and statutes and all that jazz.
And his
So-
life was lived after the pattern of the Torah with the 40 days in Egypt and so on and so forth.
Let's do another one of Jacob's greatest hits. Zechariah 8:23. This is what the Lord Almighty says. In those days, 10 people from all languages and nations will take firm hold of one Jew by the hem of his robe and say, "Let us go with you, because we have heard that God is with you." And as Rabbi Skovak likes to point out, we live in what appears to be messianic times, because every day he gets an email from some Gentile saying, "Rabbi, I just want to hold on to your tzitzis because we have heard that God is with you." And frankly, it's something that has happened to me personally as well. Now, that word, by the hem of his robe, in the Septuagint, the word there, hem, is crispidin, and the Hebrew is kanaf, both of which, in the Greek and in the Hebrew, right? The knaf, right? Both of which refer to the tzitzit, right? Like the traditional Jewish fringes. I dare you to find me a Christian priest who even knows what the traditional Jewish fringes look like, much less wears them. And I highly recommend, if you're a Christian and you want to know what it will look like when you grab onto one Jew and say to him, "We have heard God is with you," and as I have to point out continually to the Christians who will say, "And that Jew is Jesus," that the "with you" is actually in the plural in the Hebrew there. But even if it was Jesus, there's a funny thing about Eastern Orthodox icons of Jesus. Only recently have Eastern Orthodox iconographers started to show Jesus wearing talit, wearing a traditional prayer shawl. Because for thousands of years, Christians have forgotten what a tzitzit looks like.
Well, it's not just that, though. It's also the fact that Jesus is usually translated to the culture that the icon's being represented in. So, if Jesus is being portrayed in a European culture, he looks like a white guy with, dark hair, maybe sometimes blonde hair if you want to get really crazy with it. If he's being portrayed in Ethiopia, he's black. If he's being portrayed in China, he's Chinese.
How many times have you guys seen? I mean, I used to use this on my channel a lot more than I have recently. This is my favorite image to use on this channel more than any other, and there's a reason for it. This shows how Christianity is so obviously false. Jesus is anything but Jewish here. His haircut is not what a rabbi's haircut would have been. He shows everything except the one mark of Judaism that he would have had on him on the crucifix, which is his circumcision, which for thousands of years, even in the icons of the circumcision, which show Jesus being circumcised, Jesus is always shown with a foreskin, if at all. He's never shown circumcised until recently. Now, all things like, now Christians care about Judaism suddenly. And there's a reason I point out the sign on top, right? So if you can read I can't read the Greek, but the Latin, which probably would not have been there, but Iesuus Nazarenes Rex Eudorum, right? And then there's the Greek, which, however you say it, and then there's the beautiful Hebrew. I could not have made this Hebrew more perfect myself. It is perfect Hebrew in that it has diacritics, which were created by rabbis about 1,000 years ago, which certainly did not exist 2,000 years ago. It is pseudo-Hebrew because he starts with copying, someone must have written for him in Hebrew with diacritics, right? Rabbinic Hebrew, very rabbinic Hebrew. Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. But somewhere around King, he decides he doesn't actually give a fuck if it's actual Hebrew. So the two words are impossible to read, right? And they vaguely look like Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. And guess what Jesus has not been for 2,000 years? He's been king of everyone in the world but the Jews. But the Jews. So, yeah, there's a reason this is my favorite image.
It's also a really bad image, just like on a whole bunch of levels from an Orthodox perspective.
Sure, why not? But
I mean, like, you can show him being any race, to say, to prove the incarnation, but or to show that the incarnation is about mankind being brought to God, but like there's all sorts of things here that are like from an Orthodox perspective, like just wrong.
But this is Christ crucified. This is a Jewish rabbi being taken and humiliated and destroyed, and everything Jewish about him being robbed from him. And that's what Christianity is. The betrayal of Jesus and who he was.
I would say that's definitely like a common strand in Western Christianity, especially since Martin Luther. Although Lord knows that the Roman Catholics did their own job on it during the Renaissance. But
I'm sorry, I don't see Eastern Orthodoxy doing a lot better. The Eastern Orthodox were just as likely to make you eat pork before you got dunked in the baptismal as anybody else.
Yes, and I think there's a good reason for that, and also a bad reason for that, which that's getting into some nitty gritties and like kind of like throwing stones back and forth between our two communities that go back 1,500.
But it's going back to who was Jesus? Was he the king of the Jews or was he the king of the Gentiles?
Well, he was the king of the Jews as the descendant of David, and then he's the Lord of all as.
For 2,000 years, he was king of everyone but the Jews, meaning he's not the Messiah.
I mean, you had Jews like following Christ.
Yeah.
Like, all his disciples and everyone.
Following Christ, following Jesus away from Moses, following Jesus away from fulfilling that which we as Jews were commanded. And that's why, I mean, look, you have to give the devil his due. You have to give the Protestants their due. They looked at the Christian church as it was, and they were like, where are the Jews? Where is Israel here? This isn't Israel. This isn't where is the Old Testament? Where is Moses? And they came to the only thing that after 1500 years of Christianity makes a reasonable sense of Christianity actually Jesus having accomplished anything, which is, oh, the Jews must not be Jewish. Moses must have been abrogated, and we're the new Israel. And like, I'm sorry, but you have to wrestle with who is a Jew as a Christian, and you will either end up where the Messianic Jews have ended up, which is the Messianic Christians, which is worshiping Jews. And it's like, yeah, when you say your God is a Jew, your whole religion is about worshiping Jews or really hating Jews. You kind of end up in one of those two places.
Not only is God a Jew, but like you also have a good, 13 out of 24 elders are also Jews. You go in the council, one of them being Judah.
And then, I didn't do this because I knew my Eastern Orthodox audience would kind of find it sacrilegious. But you know how people have started like taking pictures and putting Stars of David next to the Jews? I had the idea. I didn't do it. I might have even seen somebody else did it, and I didn't copy it. Somebody took an iconostasis and put a Star of David next to every Jew on the iconostasis in a similar manner, and it was a little funny.
What type of Star of David? Just out of curiosity, was it like the one that we see normally, or was it like
you've seen the modern pictures where like they show the bank president's Jewish star like memes? Do you know the memes I'm talking about?
No, I don't on this particular.
It's hard to find anti-Semitic memes using Google search, but what anti-Semites have started doing is like taking pictures of like there's lots of bank presidents, and then
so we're going with like the Nazi star,
kind of, or an Israeli like very like it does, but like that's the Jew, they're showing the Jews, right? And you could take an iconostasis and basically everyone in an iconostasis is a Jew.
I personally would not see doing that with an iconostasis as being blasphemous. If it's getting across the point like, hey guys, yeah, these guys are all Jews, stop being anti-Semitic. Like I can see using the iconostasis as a message in that way.
I didn't do it. I actually think I saw somebody maybe do it. I don't remember exactly. And it's like, do I take this and actually show it or not? And it's like, people got mad at me when I said that if Mary had been violated, I don't think it would have, in my view, made me feel that she was less pure. And people got really mad at me for even saying that. And so like, I was like, okay, like, why are you getting mad at me for saying even if she had been, that wouldn't make me think any less of her purity.
Well, I mean, when you get to the virgin birth, that's like, you know, touching on one of the dogmas of, like, the foundational dogmas of Christianity, and yeah, people get touchy about that one. But especially when you have to deal with like liberal Protestants and the stuff they come up with, like from the kind of historical critical perspective. I can see why some people would be offended by that.
I understand people being offended with the idea that she had been assaulted, but I was like, even if she had been, that doesn't make me think less of her. That's what I said.
And keep in mind too, like I grew up in a tradition. I grew up evangelical, and I was used to hearing the idea that she and Joseph got it on after Jesus was born, and that's where the brothers and sisters of Jesus come from, and that was pretty standard in evangelical circles. Mary was just kind of a holy vessel, and she had no choice in the matter, and yada yada yakety yakety. It was very Calvinist in its presuppositions.
Rabbi Yechezkel, how you doing?
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
Doing well.
I feel like OMC's How Bizarre should be playing right now.
Queen.
What'd you say, Chazi?
I said the Sabbath Queen has left us, so I'm a little sad. I'm always sad on Sunday when the Queen leaves. It was Sabbath.
You're droiding on us,
we're also
Chazi.
reading the portion of Jethro.
This is what happens when Chazi drives to Tel Aviv. Between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, he ends up losing a bit of his bandwidth. Yes, the portion
I was going to say this is the portion of Jethro, the Ten Commandments. I was inspired in synagogue.
One of the two places where we read the Ten Commandments.
That's true. It's also in Vet Hanan in the book of Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy, it is.
That is true, and there are differences between them. But was just again this year contemplating on what the experience was that the Israelites are going through. The idea of coercion, how that looks like, the difference between that and what Jeremiah. I was asked to speak in synagogue. I didn't get this speech because it was going to be too controversial, but I was thinking also about Jeremiah and the new covenant and being written on our hearts and not being taken out by the hand anymore, and how that looks like in modern day, how much coercion there needs to be. A classic discussion that you and I have had, Jacob. But
Chazi, why is Yoav telling us you did not sleep much last night? Is it just because you're wearing the sunglasses?
No, I went to sleep actually quite late last night, so he saw me on Mark Parker's stream, which quite frankly was very sad to see. But no, I was just working. We had guests over from the States, and I took up all my working time on Friday, so I had to get work done Saturday night.
Do I even want to ask about Mark Parker's sad stream?
It was a continuation of Luke's stream, expressing on sort of the etiquette on these streams. Should people be speaking in good faith or not? There's a character named Nathan something. I don't know. I forget his last name. Nathan Ormond. Yeah, so he's a very strange character, and he doesn't really play so nice. But
Mark Parker and Nathan They deserve each other, and the two of them with Luke, it makes a trinity. Although I have to say, Luke is somebody I would get a beer with. Mark Parker owes me a steak dinner, which I have refused to actually partake of because, yeah, even with a steak, I don't think I could spend that much time with the man. And Nathan may be one of the few people that I would very gladly ban from my. Hey, Kirk. I would very gladly ban from my Discord server were he ever to join it.
I see. After expressing that, those are little side issues. You're here with people that are searching and seeking to understand the master of the universe better. So teach us some Torah.
Torah? We haven't been talking Torah at all for the past 3 hours. We've been just talking about politics. Right? Right?
Well, we still haven't hit
What do
on
you say?
like, what makes it divine.
What makes the Torah divine? So here, let's do another one of Jacob's greatest hits. Who recognizes what this is?
This is the alphabet.
This is the alphabet. This is the Hebrew alphabet. And the top right letter is an aleph, and the bottom left letter is a taf. And in the very center is mem in its two forms. So the green and the black next to each other in the very center, those are the two forms of mem. And if you look very closely, you will see aleph, mem, taf, right? So the first letter, the middle letter, and the bottom letter is the three letters on the bottom here. And that spells emet. Kirk, do you remember what emet means?
Truth.
It means truth. And on the top is shin kuf resh. So back to our little demonstration of the Hebrew alphabet. The three letters before the taf are shin, resh, and kuf, which are the same three letters, but mixed up a little bit. So the top is sheker. Do you remember what sheker means, Kirk?
Is that someone who? No, it's not Shomer, because that's someone who keeps. No, I don't remember.
Lies.
Sheker is lies, and emet is truth. Now, so first, emet is the first letter, the middle letter, and the last letter, meaning that from beginning to end, truth is true. And sheker is all lopsided towards the end of the alphabet. Also, if you look at the shape of the letters, that it says in the Talmud, sheker ein lo reglayim, which literally translates to lies have no legs. Because if you were to create shapes out of these letters, the shin would fall over, the kuf would fall over, and the resh would fall over. But if you were to create aleph, mem, and taf, they're all very solid figures. They stand, right? So sheker is that which is all bunched up in one part of the alphabet, right? And it's something that falls over that isn't very solid. Truth is that which is the beginning, the middle, and the end, and it's solid, right? So, the Jewish concept of truth is that which is eternal, right? That which is divine is that which is permanent and always true. So, another one of Jacob's greatest hits.
But Jacob, for a specific question about the divinity of the Torah, and while you did reply right now by showcasing that the letters and language,
You didn't let me finish my Jacob's greatest hit, Chezi.
Sorry.
Come on, Chezi. I'm playing the greatest hits for Nick here.
Go ahead.
So, one of the questions I get from Christians all the time about the Talmud is, does it really say in the Talmud that anyone who says David sinned has nothing in his hands but mistakes? Because have you read the Bible? Right? It kind of sort of seems like David may have sinned once or twice. Right? So how can it say that you can't say David sinned? Now, there are many ways of explaining it. The simplest one is he repented, therefore his sins are wiped away. And if you say David sinned, you're mistaken. But another thing to understand, especially when you're studying that part of Talmud where it goes through how and explains how really David only made the most minor sins, right? Is that we believe the Bible is God's message to everyone. That means that the guy who's in Las Vegas and he goes back to his hotel room after spending money he does not have on hookers and blow and sees his Bible and cracks it open and starts reading it, has to get a message that applies to him the same way that the rabbi who has lived a Hasidic life his entire life and at the age of 119 is reading that story for the 1000th time, has to be able to read it, and it has to speak to him in the same divine manner, right? So it has layers, and we say there are 70 faces to the Torah, because the Torah is something that for thousands of years, billions of people have turned to for wisdom and for truth and for understanding, right? And that's what makes the Torah true, and it makes it divine, because it has that capacity to speak to that guy in that hotel room in Vegas as it does to that rabbi in Jerusalem reading it in Hebrew for the 1000th time. Okay, now I'm done with Jacob's greatest hits.
So I would add something to take into consideration, which I think relates to the divinity of the Torah as well. There are three contemporaries to Moses who had their own Torah, so to speak. They had their own philosophical ideas that they were playing with at the time of Moses. And these three, according to our sages, are Jethro, Job, and Balaam, the prophet. Now, before Moses receives the Torah, right, and gives us this Torah, like, why is he the person that's receiving the Torah? Why is it Moses? Now, these three other ideas that we see out there, we have Jethro, who is focused on, Jacob, help me over here with Ben Adam the Chavero. How would you translate that into English? Best
I have
translation.
to
into
unmute
English?
myself first. Between man and his fellow.
His fellow man. Yeah, okay. Between man and his fellow man. And we see Jethro is very sensitive to the need of, like, the legal system, the court system, that he mentions that Moses should build. Moses obviously takes it as advice as well. Got to put this thing together. He's very focused on the individual and on the society, how it's going to work. Then you have Balaam, who is very versed with speaking to the divine, between man and the divine, right? We are told that he rivals Moses with his prophetic powers, and we already have a person out there that already knows how to connect to the divine. And then you have Job, who is focused inwards on himself, right? He's the suffering person that's dealing with all this, how do good people suffer. He's dealing with his whole existential crisis as well. Now, their mistake was thinking that philosophy, those ideas alone, are going to be able to save us. And we could see already Jethro mentions to Moses that if you take on my advice and God wills it so, it's going to be successful. Like, God will give it its blessing. And thinking that that's enough to really hold a society or hold a world. And that's why Moses is the one that's selected, because Moses is the most humble of all people, of all men. And he does not have his own agenda that he's trying to bring onto the people. And only someone as humble as Moses, someone that nullifies himself in a certain way where it allows himself to be a vessel, can now actually give us what we call Torah min hashamayim, right? Torah from the heavens. As in, it's complicated to be able to. It's very easy to deal with Jethro or Balaam or Job as individuals, but what happens when you have values that are clashing? What happened when you have three of these different philosophies that are clashing with each other? That's why you need someone to bring you a Torah called our Torah, which has also Balaam's Torah, also Jethro's Torah, also Job's Torah, all infused into one concept. And Moses is the one that also has to bring this down, because who Moses is himself. We see again, actually, these three. Also, our Midrash tells us that Moses wrote his book, and the book of the story of Balaam and the story of Job. But these three characters come up again, actually. It's quite curious. A few portions ago, when Pharaoh is figuring out how to get rid of the Israelites, the Talmud tells us that there were the three counselors of Pharaoh were Job, Jethro, and Balaam. And Balaam agreed with the idea of destroying the Israelites, and that's why he ends up getting killed. Job stays silent, and that's why he suffers. And Jethro runs away, and that's why his descendants ultimately get grafted into the people of Israel. So that concept of the divinity of the Torah is really the idea of it's taking, and like Jacob said, billions of people have been going back to this Torah for wisdom, because it holds inside it in multiple different layers of interpretation. And it holds in it deep, deep, deep truths of how humans interact with each other, how they interact with the divine. And we're challenged by God himself, saying, I don't know the exact verse by heart, Jacob, but Shal Nale Amim Rishonim, right? He challenges that ask in the future, go and ask and see if you've ever heard of such a story, of such a prophecy of the revelation that's Sinai. And we're a few thousand years later, and a story like that has been so impactful, we have yet to hear another story rival it as well. I hope that was clear. I'm sorry if I wrote it.
No, yeah, that was good. I mean, I'm definitely biased here, but a Christian could say, like, Christ's coming would be like a bow tie to that amazing story, like having God himself be the Messiah and deliver his people through like the most like unorthodox way, like through death. Like that could be a very good story, but I feel like other cultures also have like lots of wisdom in their writings as well. Like what makes the Israelite wisdom divine?
I think the first time you came, I mentioned that verse in Isaiah, "My house shall be called a house of prayer for all the nations."
Okay.
And I think, I mean, honestly, even 80 years ago, if you had said that the Temple Mount in Jerusalem was the center of the world, people would have laughed at you. I think today, in a way that is almost just assumed to be true by pretty much the entire world, like if you were to ask, okay, an alien comes up and says, "Hey, where's the most important place on this? Where is the home of the god of this planet, of this world?" I don't. I think pretty much. I mean, would the Muslims say the Kaaba? Probably. But the Muslims seem very, very focused on Jerusalem as well. And would the Christians say the same things that they've been saying for 2,000 years, which is Jesus is the fulfillment and greater than any temple, etc., etc.? Probably. But I think Christians are very, very focused on the temple as well. And obviously, Jews have been focused on it for thousands of years. And when the Dalai Lama came to Jerusalem and he went to the temple wall, to the Western Wall, and there was a picture of him with his very funny red yarmulke at the temple. That was the only time I think his picture has ever been on the front cover of, if I remember correctly, it was Yated Ne'eman, which is one of the ultra-Orthodox Haredi magazines in Israel, with that verse and his picture. "My house shall be called a house of prayer for all the nations." Like, for me, like, yeah, you could say it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You could say a lot of things. But we have a copy of the Great Isaiah Scroll, which is 2,300 years old, which is the complete book of Isaiah, which has that line in it. And, like, I don't understand how anyone doesn't look at that and say, this is prophetic. What do you want to say, Andrew?
Nothing. I just got back.
There's something you wanted to say.
No.
Okay. I'll let your twin Nick do all the talking.
I wanted to bring you the news about Dee Parker, if you haven't watched last night.
Oh, okay.
No. Good news.
Real quick.
What, real quick?
The name of the news of what?
Oh, Mark Parker is a guy in this wider flotilla of channels, and somebody I've wrangled with previously. Yeah.
So I wanted to bring the news to you. First, I wasn't holding him in much esteem prior to last evening. and I was really thinking it was going down distinctly even path. But what he said, two important things. First, he said that he realized that everybody's wrong. It means that he realized that he's wrong, and he has to hang his hat on some solid peg. Second thing he said, that he's making his way into joining Catholicism, which is, of course, not the path that you would have recommended, but I think it marks the realization that he needs to receive truth from the most reliable source he can find, for the more ancient and the more stable source of truth is
that why he's going through to Catholicism, or because of his political beliefs and because the bishops agree with him about his hatred of Donald Trump?
There is a path. This is his path. I mean, he cannot.
His path is the path of hatred. Yes.
Yes, but I see an opening. It's like you're going down a valley and you cannot climb the wall, but at least you're going down a place, a path which can ultimately, after several turns.
Obviously, I don't think Mark Parker is capable of defeating God, no matter how hateful and self-righteous and bad of a human being he may be. God will have mercy on his soul, and he will eventually end up better than he was, because that's how God works in the world. But that's not a commendation of anything Mark Parker has ever done in his life.
Yeah, but I'm trying to be somewhat of a chezi. I'm trying to show you the sprinkles of light in a dark world.
Yes. There are nitzutzei kedusha even within Mark Parker. God have mercy.
Okay, so now I will go to work. I wish all a very
You've achieved your goal of showing me that even in the darkest places on earth, the Dira B'Tachtonim, right, the nether parts of which is Mark Parker's heart, God is there, even there. Yes.
Okay, now Chezi is there, so I can leave.
Have fun at work. I am being a little hyperbolic when I talk about Mark, obviously. He's not the worst human being on earth.
So you guys are saying like the Torah and the Hebrew scriptures have this just unique wisdom and propheticness to them that nothing else in this world has, and it's been like faithfully preserved throughout time as well.
Well, I mean, that's the big... So Christianity says, yes, the oracles of God were entrusted to the Jewish people and we misunderstand them. I think they're wrong, but that's what they say. The Muslims say the oracles of God were entrusted to the Jewish people and we have perverted them, which I think you can very easily see is wrong. And the Dead Sea Scrolls, if nothing else, have completely refuted not just Christianity, but also Islam. And I very much, I mean, when the Dead Sea Scrolls were here in Los Angeles, Andrew went and saw them several times, but we went and saw them together once. And we even got to see a famed fragment of 4QMMT, which was the most exciting part. 4QMMT, I have to say, I believe is the greatest miracle and miraculous revelation of godliness. Certainly in our lifetimes and possibly in the past 2,000 years and possibly even more. I highly recommend looking up 4QMMT. But everyone agrees that the revelation of God to Moses is a revelation of God. Like certainly the vast majority of humanity does.
Jacob and I will disagree, obviously, with the modern state of Israel and the ingathering of the the people of Israel to Israel, how much prophetic significance that has. But obviously, I personally,
The ingathering has a lot of significance. The modern state, God have mercy on our souls.
right, my being
He's droiding because God doesn't want Zionism to pervert your mind. Thank God.
And we got a question.
I've got an answer. What's your question?
Maybe a basic question. You know, Miriam the prophetess, the sister of Aaron, took the timbrel in her hand.
Yes.
And she started singing the Song of Moses.
She started singing the song at the sea. I believe her song was different than the Song of Moses.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, I may not be remembering correctly, but the Song of Moses is the Song of Moses, and the Song of the Sea, if I remember correctly, is a different song, which was closely related, but with different words, which she sang, if I remember correctly.
Okay. Well, what struck me today is it has
We can
that
ask
same,
Grok. Yeah, what struck you?
it has that same quotation bit where you get to the end and it starts quoting the beginning or something like that.
Let's see what Grok says. So I asked, did Miriam sing the Song of the Sea or the Song of Moses, or is it the same? Grok says, Miriam sang what is commonly called the Song of Miriam, or her refrain, which is a short version or response that echoes the opening of the longer Song of the Sea, also known as the Song of Moses. They are essentially the same song in core content and purpose, but presented differently in the biblical text. In Exodus 15, the account right after the crossing of the Red Sea or Sea of Reeds, verses 1 through 18 describe the Song of the Sea or Song of Moses. Moses and the Israelites sing a full poetic hymn praising God for triumphing over the Egyptians. I will sing to the Lord, for he is highly exalted. Both horse and driver he has hurled into the sea. Starts it, followed by many verses detailing God's power and the sinking of the Egyptians, etc. Verses 20 through 21 then say, Miriam the prophetess, Moses' sister, takes a timbrel, leads all the women in dancing and playing instruments, and she sings, responds to them, sing to the Lord, for he is highly exalted. Both horse and driver he has hurled into the sea. This refrain Miriam sings is identical, or nearly so, depending on translation, to the very first verse of Moses' longer song. Many interpreters see it as an antiphonal response, call and answer style. The men led by Moses sing the full version, and the women led by Miriam respond with the key refrain, possibly repeating or echoing it, or a summary shorthand for the women joining in the same celebration, with the Bible only quoting the opening line of what they sang. In Jewish tradition and many Bible translations, the entire passage, Exodus 15, 1 through 21, is often titled the Song of Moses and Miriam, or simply the Song of the Sea, Shirat Hayam in Hebrew, treating it as one unified song of victory attributed primarily to Moses, but including Miriam's leadership of the women's celebration. Some modern biblical scholars suggest the short version Miriam sings might preserve an even older or original core of the tradition, with Moses' longer poem as an expansion. But in the canonical text as we have it, the full poem is credited to Moses and the Israelites, while Miriam leads the women in a responsive echo of it. In short, it's basically the same song, the Song of the Sea, Song of Moses, with Miriam singing and leading the women to sing its key opening refrain as a celebratory response. That's what Grok says. And Rabbi Grok knows his Torah better than I do, obviously. And I have no idea what's going on with Kazi. There's Kazi with his shirt, a very rabbinic shirt at that.
All of the songs are very ancient. Also, the Song of Deborah is also very ancient. If you're thinking from like an academic point of view.
And the Song of Hannah is very ancient.
Hmm. I was cut off and I was talking about like the divinity, like again, like, you know, the fact that like many prophecies have come true. But you know, we go back to Maimonides, our classic Maimonides over here, with his, you know, even his view of Christianity and Islam as being sister or daughter religions to Judaism, also just points on the divinity of our books.
Yeah, so Maimonides chapter 11 of Laws of Kings and War is one of the things I often point to Christians. Funny enough, a few years ago, I pointed it out to a Christian friend of mine, and he thought it was an article that I had just written recently explaining biblical prophecy and Christianity and Islam. And I had to point out to him that Maimonides had written it roughly 1,000 years ago, when what he said sounded like stupidity to the vast majority of people. And nowadays it just sounds like a modern Jewish polemic explaining the state of the world as it exists.
So that's
I'm
the
going
divinity.
I'm going to bed. I'm real tired.
I should probably go to bed too. And Vincent and Nick is in Atlanta, where it is like almost 2 a.m., isn't it? Or is it almost 1 a.m.?
1:30, so right in the middle.
Aha. Yeah. So between 1 and 2 a.m. You have to go to liturgy in the morning.
Do I have to?
You kind of sort of have to, yeah. Have you gotten baptized yet?
No, I was chrismated this January, or it's not January anymore.
So you're supposed to go to liturgy every week,
Every
right, Andrew?
Something like that.
Something like that.
What's your religious faith, Andrew?
Coptic
He's a
Orthodox.
monophysite.
Okay, nice. My friend did a big deep dive into like Oriental Orthodoxy, and he said like we can reunite and like we share the same faith, unlike the Catholics.
Yeah, hopefully one day Christianity will get its act together. But until then, you have the Jews. Okay, people. That's your clue. Well, I mean, did you go to confession? If you haven't gone to confession, I don't know. Can you go to liturgy tomorrow and get communion?
Only the super strict row core churches do that kind of thing, but yeah, no, I'll hopefully commune tomorrow or today.
Okay. You go to an OCA church, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
OCA, the good old OCA. They'll give communion just to about anybody.
Is that what you've heard? Is that the stereotype?
No, not at all. Although it was very interesting. I went to a wedding at an OCA church, and like the people in the choir were dressed in ways that I think a lot of non-OCA Eastern Orthodox would have been like, get that guy out of the church, which was interesting. But
I think we tend to be a bit more lax and liberal than other jurisdictions.
yeah, I think especially a lot of the cradle Greek Orthodox would have been quite offended. But that's what you get for being cradle Greek Orthodox.
Yeah.
Which is halfway out the church anyway. Okay, people. It was nice talking to you. Don't do anything I would do. Make sure you go to church and be good people. I'm going to use host's prerogative to put the Reverend Parcells to bed because he does need to get up in the morning.
Sorry, Reverend. Thank you.
But before he goes, I have a question. Let's say, God forbid, that I were to burn somebody at the stake for not being a Trinitarian. And I did not repent of that. Is that a salvation issue?
Sometimes Jacob takes that devil's advocate thing too
Isn't there
far.
a proverb that says something like, don't answer a fool according to his folly?
But there's a proverb that says, answer a fool according to his folly.
There is. Exactly right. I'm going to leave it to you guys to determine, which of those was applicable in this situation as I go. So, but anyhow, good.
Thank you, Reverend.
Good to
Thank
chat
you.
with you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
The